we need to find ways to engage people in doing these activities, both because we know on one level that it's good for them, but also to be able to really understand what the benefits are and to test their potential benefits on things that we don't know as much about. So we know there's just been a little bit of research, for example, about how exercise could be a really powerful way of helping people deal with fatigue after stroke. But we don't know enough about that. And to know more, we need to do bigger trials. And we've got some idea that it will really help people's mood and cognition, as well as their likelihood of being able to live longer and live healthier after stroke. But we need to know more about that and what sort of exercise that needs to be. And we can't know more about it without that engagement of people with stroke themselves. So we need to understand what can best benefit people.
One thing I might add as well is, as researchers, I'm wondering if we're phrasing it the wrong way. So when we're talking about exercise, and in fact it might be going for a walk, but even saying exercise, it sounds like going to the gym and lifting weights and puffing and sweating, and that puts people off and they don't want to know about it. Having this sort of interaction with consumers who aren't trained health professionals, Coralie and I both come from a physiotherapy background, we might be sabotaging ourselves by using the wrong words. Maybe no matter what words we use, the whole concept is unpleasant and unattractive anyway. But if there are things that we can do to package this in a way that is a bit more user-friendly just in the explanations, that would also be really beneficial to us to be able to, for instance, design the trial and recruit people to test out some of these concepts as well.
I do like being active more than exercise, because I think Liz has nailed it, and you said it first, that I'm thinking lifting weights, going for walks, walking around a track, and I'm clicking off this mental checklist of all the things I can't do. But if it's, wander the mall, I do that, So, and I don't even think about, well, I'm walking, but, Cam and I were just talking before you guys got on, IKEA is a huge store. I don't know if you guys have in Australia or not, but they're ginormous, and they can take an hour plus to walk through. And a lot of times I have to use a wheelchair, but I'm kind of pushing myself. So I'm still, I guess, exercising, but I like being active after stroke is probably a better way to phrase it. But that might be something to throw out to my group and say, how can we, like Liz was saying, how do we package this to make it attractive?
What are the benefits that people would most value from that? So what's it going to take for somebody to go, yeah, I really am going to think about how I can be more active because I know it's going to do this for me. What's the this? And it will be different for different people, but what's the key thing that's going to motivate them?
What's that carrot? What is that carrot that's going to push me through?
Kelly, what's the carrot? I think is really important for different people. Bringing in what Daniel said earlier is, what's the carrot, but then what do you need, or what do people need to support them and enable them to do the activity or the intervention or whatever it is to get the carrot?
Accountability, even I know that. When I'm accountable to somebody, I am far better about doing things. Dr. English was just saying, what does it take? For everybody, it can be different. But I like what you were saying, Dr. English, about possibly, is it going to be needing to be more, more one-on-one, more calls, more Zoom time, whatever. That's an interesting, I don't know the answer, but I think that's an interesting point, and I'd love to bring that up with my group too. What is your well, I guess, what is your definition of accountability? What would it take to hold you accountable?
And that can be built in all sorts of ways, whether it's by meeting with peers or having a dog that you have to walk or anything like that, that someone else is counting on you. Or also, I'm wondering how much of it is keeping you company. I know for me, I prefer to do things with other people. I prefer to do things where I get to chat, and is that something that's across the board or not, So is it accountability, or is it having contact?
Good point. What tool is it? What does it take?
On here, You're talking another benefit and role of exercise is recovery of walking or arm function. We've talked to, Daniel and I have talked to several people that recovery can happen even later.
100%, yes. We do know that. We do know that the fastest progress, the fastest recovery tends to happen early, but that meaningful and definite improvements and gains can happen in people's walking ability and the ability to use their arm even years later. They might be smaller and not as dramatic, but they can be really important for people still. So for my mind, the summary of what we discussed today and what we think we'd like Kelly to pose to her group specifically is, what does the term exercise mean to you?
How can we describe that in a way, is there a way of describing it in a way that doesn't put people off?
Yeah. So it's what are the terms exercise and physical activity mean to people? What's the carrot? What are the things that will motivate people or people want to have the benefit from? So for example, is it fatigue? Is it mood? Is it knowing that they've got lower risk of having a second stroke? What would be the carrot to being more active? And then what are the support systems and the ramp or the enablers that people might need if they have decided, okay, yes, I really do want to be active? And that's where it's things like, is accountability part of that? Is it peer support? Would you rather have one-on-one sessions with a therapist or be paired with a peer to help support you? Or so actually, I think they're the three main things.
So the one thing we haven't discussed at all is, how do people get the information? And for instance, if somebody has a success story where they were more active and something really positive came out of it, do people know about that? And do they prefer to hear that in something that's written, or do they prefer to see it on a YouTube clip or from a chat with one of their friends? Like, is it an informal thing, or is there some way that people are on social media that we can use to promote, to help support the research as well?
When I peer visit, the first question is, when do I get out of here? I want to get out of here. And when do I get back to normal? That's what they all want to know. Mm-hmm. So I say, okay, you asked for it. Here are the 4 risk factors. These are the 4 things which you have control over, which you can affect the speed and the quality of your recovery. They are, in descending order of priority, diet, exercise, medication, and therapy. So I talk about all 4. So specific. That's how I frame it, and they're willing to talk about it. Every single person in the hospital that has had a stroke, all that's on their mind is, when do I get out of here? How do I get out of this mess? How much am I going to get better, and how fast am I going to get better? So I use that inquisitive attribute of the patient to draw them into a conversation about diet, exercise, medication, and therapy.
See, my stroke wasn't caused by my diet. Mine was caused by a genetic malformation I was born with. And I pretty much, from the time I got out of the hospital until current, I'm still exercising on a daily basis.
I can go to the gym, but I have to get somebody to tie my foot to the bike, and it's hard. I think it's easier for me to swallow the word physical activity.
I just think the term exercise, that word is pretty loaded. It's very intimidating. And because injuries happen with exercise, I think movement, purposeful movement, something like fun.
I tell you what, I would pay $1 million for an exercise DVD that says it's for special needs, that would show how to do these exercises one-sided.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I have wheelchair exercises, blah, 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 but none of them show how to do it one-sided.
When I was peer visiting an 80-some-odd-year-old woman in the hospital, she said, how am I supposed to exercise? I said, exercise, ma'am, doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be an Olympic weightlifter. You can exercise right in this bed right now. Lift your arm over your head. Which is your bad arm? She said, my right arm. I said, lift it over your head. Can you lift it over your head? She said, yeah, I sure can. She did it once. I said, do it 9 more times. And we counted it off. And she took her pulse, and it was up about 10%.
That's
And your
exercise.
heart is pumping more oxygen into your brain per any given measure of time. And that oxygen is the nutrient your brain needs to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And stroke survivors totally get that.
When we talked to Dr. English, she was surprised to learn that for most of us, the threat of a second stroke is not a motivator. Because like Laura, mine was genetic. My chances of my having a second stroke are nil. And so to say, you need to exercise so you don't have a second stroke makes me go, whatever.
Yeah.
So what is your carrot? Why do you go to the gym every day, Laura? You're not going to have a second stroke. So what motivates you? What is your carrot?
For me, it's pride kind of thing.
Success is what kept you going.
Exactly.
Melissa, what about you?
Sometimes I just remind him, doing these things today, prep for the next trip.
Most strokes, I will say the majority, easily, are diet and exercise related. They are blockages. So it becomes a very worthwhile discussion, because I can't stress this enough. They want to get out of there. They don't want to be in that position. That's the time where they're thinking about, am I going to have another stroke? That feeling goes away after a while, but not when you're first in there. So they are very open to that message. The scab has been open, and they're very willing to hear it.
I think what we've been saying this whole time, there's got to be differentiation. There's got to be to stop lumping us all in one, oh, stroke survivor.
Right.
That ramp up has got to happen.
Yep.
If this is your issue, then this is a path to take. If this is your issue, then this is a path to take. So,
Right. At least a little bit more individualized.
a little bit, yeah. The number of times we have people that we haven't seen in a while come in, and almost everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're so much better. Look at what you can do. Even like Laura's husband noticing that on the boat, she wasn't quite as weeble wobble. There's the carrot. There's the, somebody is telling me that they can see a difference when I can't.
Exactly.
Because it's just like weight loss. You know, you lose 10 pounds, you don't go down a size, you still feel fat. Then you walk into someplace and somebody goes, oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight. All of a sudden you get a spring in your step and you're a little happier. And maybe that's the benchmark, is how do we surround ourselves, be it through support group or like Melissa said, some sort of visual online conference, whatever, that we can point out that even the most, like Larry was saying, even the most minute step forward is still forward. We're still getting better in some way, shape, or form.
I didn't have a choice, because Griffin was 7 months old when all this happened to me. When I got out of the hospital, he was 11 months old. I'm in a different position because I had an infant that I had to take care of.
But that's just what we're talking about. How many other new moms have had a stroke?
Well,
You know what I'm saying? How many other new moms, even in the state of Georgia, could you be an example, or could you help?
The minute I say I'm a peer visitor, I'm a brain injury peer visitor. Translation, folks, I am a 2-time stroke survivor. Come to talk to you about how to get out of this hospital bed and stay out of this hospital bed. Do you have a moment to spend with me? And the minute they hear you're a survivor and you're walking and talking relatively normally, they want to hear the message.
I receive things better from survivors than I do from therapists, than I do from doctors, than I do from researchers, because I want to look at them and go, you got no idea.
I can walk along with him, but I can't be him.
You can't relate to him.
Exactly. So when you guys tell him something, when Kelly says, I can do this, that's a little bit more motivating than, you know, because it's the hemiparesis versus somebody who's been getting a lot back.
Survivors are very resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
They do whatever it takes. It's such a serious affliction. I'm sure you'd all agree in your own personal cases. It's such a serious affliction. You'll do anything to find a solution. You'll do anything to get out of that AFO. You'll do anything to be able to walk out of that wheelchair. And that is the motivation. We have to harness that inbred desire to get out of the jam that we're in. It's unmistakable. It's human nature.
A lot of times we get brand new people in, the first thing they say is, I'm so tired, I'm so fatigued. And almost immediately every survivor goes, yeah, me too, but these are some of the tricks that I use. And I know Melissa sees that with caregivers, and these are the tricks we use.
Right.
That's how you stop. There are support groups, and Laura and I have been with them, where it is just, for lack of a better term, a bitch session. It is complain about life, complain about the doctors, complain about the hospital, but we don't allow that.